Have you ever found yourself judging somebody else for something that you yourself might have done? And after the fact, you actually feel a little bit bitter about yourself. Like, how could that person do something like that? So that is what I called messed up. In this video, I'm going to share with you my 3-step framework that I've used personally to help myself not judge other people in a negative light. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to share with you the one line that I repeat to myself every time I see myself looking to judge somebody else unfavorably. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bennett Schwartz, and I help people live both a richer personal and professional life. If you're looking to live a wealthier life, make sure to hit the subscribe and the like button. Since I was a little boy, I've always heard the line that we should never judge a book by its cover. And it's something that's so key and important for us as humans, but the question is, why shouldn't we? And number 2, how are we not supposed to? It seems like it's this innate ability in all of us that we love comparing ourselves to other people. So how is it that we can actually stop ourselves from doing that? First, I want to talk about why it's so important that we shouldn't be doing it. You see, if we want to become more productive in our lives, we need our energy to really be focused on the things we need to be focusing on. And if we start focusing on other things and we start wasting our energy in other ways, then we're not going to be able to be as productive as we'd really like to be. For more on that topic, make sure you take a look at the video of why I personally work out more in the afternoon. So the first thing we need to recognize is whenever we're judging somebody else, we're actually taking our energy and putting it on somebody else. And we're going to be wasting it in terms of what it is that we can be doing with our own productive day. Think about it. When you notice a coworker coming late to work, or if you notice somebody do something and you don't agree with what it is that ever they're doing. So we're taking our energy and we're giving it to that person or to that thing. We have to realize that the more energy we end up giving away throughout our day, the less productive we're going to be. Second, if we want to become better people, then the more negative attributes that we actually have to get rid of. We have to take them out of us and just really throw them away. And it's so key when we look to understand that we want to become better people. And yes, it's hard and it's supposed to be hard, but it doesn't mean we can't look to do it. So here's the 3-step framework that I personally use whenever I start to judge somebody. Without saying, all of this stuff actually takes work. And if you really want to apply it, and this is something that's really important to you, you have to make sure that you're going to actually think about it and you're going to actually prep yourself for these situations. The first idea that we really have to have is that we have to start to get curious with these things. You see, innately, when somebody does something, it's our reaction to judge them. But the question is, are we judging them negatively or favorably? And if we can start to realize that, you know what, instead of jumping the gun and understanding this person came late, why don't we get curious as to why they might have come late? And this word curious is really such a beautiful word. If we could start to think about all the things that possibly might have happened, whether they are true or whether they are not true, we can start to understand, you know what, this person might have done something. Because if you were in that same situation, you would probably have a really good excuse of why you did that specific thing. So recognizing that is so key, and to really start to get curious about why that person did something is going to be huge in terms of making sure that we don't actually judge them negatively moving forward. So yes, that initial judgment we have is going to be there. But if we could start thinking about, oh, that person's late because they sat in traffic, or because maybe their kids woke up early, or maybe they didn't have any gas in the car, so they had to go to the gas station before work. And by doing that, we're actually going to start training our brains to not judge them negatively, but to actually judge them in a more favorable manner. So now you're probably saying, hey, Bennett, but let's say this person just showed up late because they show up late every single day, where they did something, and I actually know that they're actually not such a great person. For this, I have my second framework. You see, if that's a question we're asking, we're usually comparing ourselves, and we have an apple in one hand, and we have an orange in the other hand. And we're comparing, saying these two things are not right. I am an apple, and I show up on time to work, while this person is an orange and he shows up late. But if we could stop comparing ourselves and instead get compassion to the person, then we can actually meet them where they are. And I think it's so crucial and it's so important. So many times we think people do things purposely, but really maybe that's just the way they were trained. When I used to work in camp, I used to see certain kids who were a little tough and they were a little difficult. And I always loved that after visiting day, I would meet the parents, and then I would always have so much more leeway and so much more patience with those campers, because I realized, you know what, it's not the camper's fault that they are this way. You see, the parents were truly difficult, and of course the kid is going to be acting out and doing certain things. But if we could recognize that and more have compassion for people, then we're not going to be able to judge them. So then we're not going to judge them as much because it's really not their fault. Of course, people are going to have to own it at a certain point, and for them, I'm sure they're struggling in so many different ways that it's really difficult for them. But recognizing that it's not our job to point fingers and to play God, that it's really on us to just have compassion for the person. person. Because so many times people understand, people see the fact that people are looking at them in a certain light. And if we can actually believe ourselves and really just feel for other people, so much of that negative energy is going to dissipate because we're not actually internalizing it. The third step to the framework is the question that I want to share with you that I ask myself every single time I'm about to judge somebody. You see, at one time I had this really tough time with this one kid, and I recognized that every time I saw this person, I would get furious. I started fuming. Every time he tied his right shoe versus his left shoe first, or every time he went to the right instead of the left, I always found something, and I was always picking on the littlest things. I recognized that if I really didn't want to waste so much energy judging this one person, I needed to work on it. So I decided to ask one of my mentors, and I went on a walk with him, and I said, there's this kid that I can't stop judging. What am I supposed to do to help myself stop? I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. I know it's not right, but what am I supposed to do? While we were on our walk, he ended up pausing, and he stopped with a little bit of confusion in his face. He looked at me and says, how can you judge him? And I looked back at him and I said, what do you mean, how can I judge him? He deserves it. He does this and he does that, he does this. And then he looked at me again, he said, but you don't know what he's been going through. And to me, it was just a shit because I recognized, you know what? This kid didn't have the greatest childhood. This kid actually had certain things going on in his life that I knew about that were probably really difficult, that were affecting him. This kid was going through certain things in his life that I never have and never will go through. And it was a shift for me that I start asking myself every time that I start to judge somebody. And I ask, how can I judge this person? You know, they say that you can't judge a person until you're in their shoes. And scientifically, it's impossible to ever be in somebody else's shoes because no two people could be in the same exact place at the same time. Therefore, it is impossible to actually ever judge somebody. So the next time you find yourself looking at somebody with a negative eye, ask yourself, how can you judge them? Yes, certain people should be reprimanded for the things that they're doing, but it's not our job to be doing that. And if it's not going to be beneficial for us to be judging the person, then we have to look to really stop doing it. Look to live a more positive life, look to live a more energetic life, and really shift this energy that we're wasting so many times on judging other people and look to take it and put it somewhere more productive. And if we can do that, then we can really see the fruits of our labor in terms of what it is that we can be doing and the growth that we can really have. So how are you going to get more curious, more compassionate, and how are you going to ask yourself the question of, how can I even judge this person? And by doing that, we're going to be able to take things in our lives and start living a more fruitful and a wealthier life.